Good morning and welcome once again to the launch of the Purple Book, 4th edition. My name is Hanifa Babasedik.
And I am Femi Obidare. I want to welcome you all.
And together we'll be co-hosting this event this morning.
Good morning. Thank you. All right, let's go on. So we'll just do a quick round of the agenda very quickly, just to run through so that we all are aware of how today is going to flow. So first of all, we have done the national anthem already. Of course, we're going to take some welcome address by some of our distinguished guests. And right after that, we will do the goodwill messages from also some of our distinguished guests. And then we'll have the keynote address as well right afterwards. And then a documentary will be played just to also take the tone higher and help us understand more of the context of why we're here today. And then we'll do a panel discussion, after which we'll have a Q&A. And right after that, we'll move to the launch of the Purple Book itself. And of course, the unveiling of the theme of Gender Summit 2026. And we'll be having a wonderful day at the end of it all. Well, just to put some energy in the house, we can all see behind behind me here, right? What is right under the Purple Book launch, 4th edition? Can we all say it? Excellent. So we're going to do that call and response. So we have some energy in the house this morning. Are we together on that? Okay, I know transport wasn't too much of a problem when you were coming, was it? Not the fuel prices, at least. Okay, so when I say Purple Book Launch 2026, you respond with from voices. Excellent. Are you ready for that now? Are you ready? You want to pump the hair a little bit, right? Okay, good. So want to let us go Purple Book Launch 2026.
From voices to action.
We do it one more time with more energy, right? So Purple Book Launch 2026. From voices to action. A warm round of applause for yourselves, everyone. Please make the applause warm, like really, really warm. Thank you very much. Yes, let's move on.
All right, to officially begin, I'm going to invite the Gender and Inclusion Lead, Adekemi Omole, to give us a welcome note. Please, let's give her a round of applause as she makes her way to the stage.
Okay.
Good morning, distinguished guests, partners, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Policy Innovation Center, it is a pleasure to warmly welcome you to the launch of the Purple Book and also to this critical conversation titled Who Gains, Who Pays? Centering Women, Youths and Informal Workers in Nigeria's 2026 Tax Reform. We are truly honored because we understand that we're in a room with key stakeholders who share a common cause as we are in shaping a more inclusive and equitable economic future for all Nigerians. And this is particularly critical given that fiscal and tax policies impact women, youths, and all Nigerians, particularly informal workers who make up many of our marginalized groups. And this conversation is very critical because we are hopeful and that it would advance some of the challenges faced by underrepresented population in Nigeria. Again, we are very grateful for your partnership and for your attendance, and we welcome you once again. Thank you.
Please, one more round of applause again for Adekemi Omole for that. Thank you very much for it. We'd like to recognize the presence of some of our special guests. And of course, we have many more coming on the way. And we will move on, first of all, by recognizing the presence right here of Madam Miriam Owais, MFR, a board member of the Policy Innovation Center. Madam, you're welcome, ma. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, when I recognize them, I know we're all very important personalities, but please share some love, okay? Let's have the round of applause with some energy. Thank you. Thank you very much. So also we'd like to recognize the presence of Dr. Kole Shetima, the Director of MacArthur Foundation's Nigeria office. Please, let's welcome Dr. Shetima. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you, sir. We also like to recognize the presence of Mrs. Tonya Akini, the Regional Director, Africa Luminate Foundation. Mrs. Akini, thanks for joining us. And would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Abia Udeme Nsekak, the Chief Community Development Officer, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. Thank you so much for joining us, ma. Also right here with us is Mr. Albert Folorin Shaw, Member, Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. Good morning, sir. You are welcome, sir. And we also recognize in the presence of Miss Angel Fadahonsi, Group Director, Human Capital Development of the Nigeria Revenue Service. You're welcome, ma. Good to see you. Revenue Service especially. And we also like to recognize the presence of Dr. Amina Aminu Dorai, the Regional Portfolio Director, West and Central Africa, Pathfinder International. Is she present already? Okay, guess she's on our way. Thank you. I got that signal from there. We'll, of course, recognize more of our guests as we go on in today's event. I'd like my colleague, Hanifa, to please proceed with the next item on the agenda. Hanifa? All purple looking good. Excellent.
All right. Please join me as I welcome Mrs. Miriam Uwais, MFR, board member at the Policy Innovation Center, to give us a welcome address. Please, can we give her a round of applause?
So good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a true privilege to open this important policy dialogue on the theme, Who Pays, Who Gains? Centering Women, Youth and Informal Workers in Nigeria's 2026 Tax Reform. Nigeria stands at a critical moment in its fiscal journey as the country works to strengthen domestic revenue mobilization and improve public financial management, reducing dependence on volatile external resources. Tax reform has become a central pillar of national economic policy. However, the effectiveness of any tax system is not measured solely by how much revenue it generates. It is also measured by how fairly the burden is distributed, how efficiently the system operates, and how clearly citizens can see the benefits of the taxes they pay. This is where the question posed by today's theme becomes particularly important. Who pays and who truly gains? In Nigeria, women, youth, and informal workers constitute a large share of economic activity. The informal sector alone accounts for the livelihoods of millions of Nigerians, market traders, artisans, MSMEs, small-scale providers, the transport operators, the micro entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. These entities keep our local economies functioning. Yet these groups often sit at the margins of fiscal policy design. Women entrepreneurs frequently operate smaller businesses with limited access to credit and formal support systems. Young Nigerians entering the workforce face structural barriers to stable employment. Informal workers frequently encounter tax and regulatory systems that are not designed with their realities in mind. When reforms do not intentionally consider these dynamics, the result can have unintended and unfair consequences. Consumption taxes that disproportionately affect low-income households, compliance systems that discourage formalization, and policies that increase burdens without expanding opportunities. The 2026 tax reform agenda, therefore, presents a crucial opportunity not only to improve revenue collection, but to strengthen the social contract between the Nigerian state and its citizens. A modern tax system must do more than collect revenue. It must encourage enterprise growth and gradual formalization. It must protect low-income households from disproportionate tax burdens. It must support youth innovation and entrepreneurship. It must recognize the economic contributions of women, and it must ensure that public resources translate into visible improvements in services, infrastructure, and opportunity. Achieving this requires evidence, dialogue, and collaboration across all the sectors. This is why today's gathering is so important. By bringing together researchers, policymakers, partners, our funders, government stakeholders, and the private sector, we are striving to create the space for a more inclusive fiscal conversation, one that places the experiences of ordinary Nigerians at the center of reform. If tax policy is to be sustainable, citizens must see themselves not only as taxpayers, but as stakeholders in a system that works for them. Today's discussions, therefore, offer an opportunity to identify practical policy pathways in which tax reforms can promote equity, encourage economic participation, and strengthen trust between government and its citizens. I encourage all participants to engage openly, to share insights grounded in evidence and experience, and work collectively towards solutions that reflect both fiscal responsibility and social inclusion. On behalf of the organizers and the PIC in particular, I thank you for being part of this conversation and for your continued commitment to building a tax system that works for all of us. You're all very welcome, as I wish us all productive deliberations. Thank you.
A great way to set the tone for the discussions we are going to have today. Thank you once again, ma'am. Please, can we appreciate her? Okay, I would like to invite Mrs. Tony Akini, Regional Director, Africa Luminate Foundation, for a goodwill message. Please, let's give her a round of applause as she approaches.
Good morning, all. And thank you so very much to the Policy Innovation Center for inviting me for this very important conversation. At Luminate, we work to ensure that everyone, regardless of who they are, what their background is, is able to contribute to the decisions that affect their lives. And one of the decisions and one of the policies that governments would make, would put forward, is one around economic inclusion, how revenues are generated, how people contribute to that revenue generation. And tax reform has been on the table for the past how many months? I think everyone within Nigeria today, and even Nigerians in diaspora, are concerned about the tax reform and how it does affect them. We believe also that the Policy Innovation Center and other organizations who are centering conversations like this and ensuring that there is inclusion baked into the policies that affect everyone. Inclusion in terms of the voices that contribute to this policies, inclusion in terms of how these policies respond to the different demographics in the country. So how does informal sector, how does the women population, how does the youth population in Nigeria, for instance, how are they able to contribute to, and how are they and the different, the peculiarities of these demographics, how are they baked into the policies? And so I look forward to the conversations, and I believe also that more and more conversations like this and such platforms like this, where we can have a diversity of voices, of perspectives, and ultimately, these perspectives can shape what becomes the people's policy, it becomes what affects people. And I look forward also, to hearing from the different perspectives in the room, from women. I love that you've gathered women. I love that you've gathered young persons. This looks like the kind of platform and the kind of audiences that should shape what policies look like. So thank you very much once again, Policy Innovation Center. We're very proud and very honored to be working with you on diverse projects, including that one that ensures that technology enables such conversations like this.
and does not harm it, and also that technology serves people. I'm hoping that we can also have a conversation around how technology can enable the kind of inclusion, social inclusion that we're hoping, that Nigeria centers within the tax reform conversation as well. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Up next, I would invite Dr. Abia Udeme Insikak, Chief Community Development Officer, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. Please, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm actually representing my permanent secretary, who is unavoidably absent. She's actually on another official assignment in New York. She's attending the 70th CSW meeting that is currently holding in New York. So she has asked me to read a goodwill message. So the Executive Director of Policy Innovation Center, Dr. Uzazui Dirizu. I'm very happy to see Madam Mary Uwais in this place. Other very distinguished participants at this program. I'd like to respectfully recognize everyone present in this place. Permit me to read the goodwill message of my permanent secretary as it was written. Goodwill message by the permanent secretary, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Mrs. N.A. Izwabana, at the Purple Book launch and PIC NESG's policy dialogue on equity and tax reforms, organized by the Nigeria Economic Summit Group and the Policy Innovation Center, held this day, Tuesday, the 17th day of March, 2026 at Policy Innovation Center, Jai, Abuja. It is a great honor for me to join you today at the launch of the Purple Book and PIC NESG's policy dialogue on equity and tax reforms on the theme, Who Pays, Who Gains, centering women, youth, and informal workers in Nigeria's 2026 tax reform. I commend the Nigeria Economic Summit Group and the Policy Innovation Center for convening this very important conversation at a time when Nigeria is undertaking critical reforms aimed at strengthening fiscal sustainability and inclusive economic development. Tax policy is not merely an economic instrument. It is also a powerful social tool that can shape equity, opportunity, and inclusion within our society. For millions of women, young people, and informal sector workers who form the backbone of Nigeria's economy, the design and implementation of tax reforms must reflect their realities, challenges, and contributions. The Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development remains committed to promoting policies that empower women and vulnerable groups, enhance economic participation, and ensure that development outcomes are inclusive and equitable. As we continue to advance gender-responsive governance and social protection frameworks, it is essential that fiscal policies, including taxation, are developed through a lens that recognizes and addresses gender and social disparities. Women and youth represent significant drivers of innovation, entrepreneurship, and community resilience across the country. Similarly, the informal sector continues to sustain livelihoods for a vast proportion of our population. ensuring that tax reforms are fair, transparent, and supportive of productive in these sectors will contribute greatly to national prosperity and social stability. I therefore applaud the Policy Innovation Center for producing this purple book, which I believe will enrich policy dialogue and provide evidence-based insights for decision makers. I encourage all stakeholders, government institutions, development partners, academia, civil society, and the private sector to engage constructively with the ideas presented in this publication. Let us work together to build a tax system that not only mobilizes revenue for national development, but one that also promotes fairness, inclusion, and shared prosperity for all Nigerians. Once again, I congratulate the organizers of this event and wish you very fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much once again. Please let's give her a warm round of applause again for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Still taking some goodwill messages, but before we do that, we would like to still recognize some of our special guests again. We'd like to recognize in the room the presence of Dr. Lillian Anomnachi, the Executive Director of Technical Advice Connect. Are you present, ma'am? Please, a round of applause for Dr. Anomnachi. Thank you very much. I hope I pronounced that properly. Okay, I won't get fined afterwards. Okay, that's great. Let's also welcome or recognize, if you may, the presence of Professor Noel Tago, Professor and Dean of Nile Business School. You're welcome, sir. Please, a warm round of applause for Professor Tago. Thank you very much. Okay, we also like to recognize the presence of Madam Ajibike Adewale, the Program Coordinator of Health, Gender and Grant Aid Management, JICA Nigeria. Is she present here? Oh, yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So one round of applause for her, please. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so we're going to go on and still take one or two more goodwill messages. But before we do that again, we remember our chant, right? Do we remember our chant? Do we remember our chant? So I want us to make it, let's take it one more time so that we have more energy as we are moving on. So let's go together. 1, 2, go. The Purple Book 2020, Purple Good Lord 2026. Okay, you can clear your throats properly. And let's do it one more time. All right, are you good? Purple Book Launch 2026. From Voices to Action. Thank you very much. So we'll take one more or two goodwill messages, and we'd like to have upstage the Group Director of Human Capital Management, Nigeria Revenue Service, Miss Angel Fadahunsi, for a short goodwill message from the Revenue Service. A round of applause for Miss Angel, please. Or Miss Fadahunsi, please.
Good morning, everybody. So, I'm speaking here in two capacities, or three actually. In a sense, I'm representing the executive chairman of the Nigeria Revenue Service, strong supporter of public policy from a gender perspective. I'm also here in my capacity as the Director of Human Capital Management, responsible for all the staff of Federal Inland Revenue Service. No, Nigeria Revenue Service. Takes some time to get used to that change. And I also lead the Gender Equality Implementation Committee at Nigeria Revenue Service. It's part of a UNDP-sponsored program for public institutions to address gender inequality in public institutions. So in that capacity, I want to say thank you so much to our host today, Dr. Sasui Dirisu, the Executive Director of the Policy Innovation Center. Good morning, all distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues from both the public private sector, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to convey warm goodwill on behalf of the leadership of the Nigeria Revenue Service and to commend the Policy Innovation Center of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group for convening this very important dialogue and for the launch of the Purple Book. Initiatives such as this play an important role in strengthening the national conversation on gender equality, inclusion, and equitable economic participation. Evidence continues to show that when women and men have equal opportunities to contribute to economic activity, the result is stronger institutions, broader tax bases, and more sustainable development outcomes. From a public policy perspective, gender-responsive approaches are increasingly recognized as essential to ensuring that policies, including fiscal and tax policies, are fair, inclusive, and responsive to the realities of the different segments of our society. For those of us in revenue administration, this conversation is particularly relevant. Effective tax systems function best when they are transparent, equitable, and responsive to the economic realities of our taxpayers. Integrating gender perspectives into policy design, taxpayer engagement, and institutional practices will support inclusive growth while strengthening voluntary compliance. At the NRS, we remain committed to advancing inclusive workplace practices, gender equality, and policies that promote fairness and opportunity for all. We recognize that diverse perspectives strengthen decision-making and enhance our ability to design and administer responsive and equitable tax policies while reinforcing public trust and confidence in the tax system. The launch of the Purple Book, therefore, represents an important contribution to evidence-based policy dialogue in Nigeria, and we are very confident that the insights and recommendations contained within will support policymakers, institutions, and development partners in advancing a more inclusive, prosperous Nigerian economy. On behalf of our chairman, let me once again commend the PIC and the Nigeria Economic Summit Group for their leadership on this very important agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I would like to invite Dr. Amina Aminu Dorai, Regional Portfolio Director, West and Central Africa, Pathfinder International. Please, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much, and I'm really sorry I came late. I just came from another event, but as you can see, I tried to be in purple because this has been in my mind for so long, so I had to just make sure that I was here, and thank God I came in at the right time. First of all, I'd like to really thank the Policy Innovation Center and the Nigeria Economic Summit Group for inviting us to be part of this very important launch. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of the summit last year, but of course, before then, I was always part of the Gender and Inclusion Summit, and it is a testament to the very important nature of this moment and the launch of the Purple Book. I wouldn't want to talk about the theme because everyone has spoken about the theme and the fact that it is very timely, especially in this complex fiscal space, and the fact that we try to continue to navigate the economic reforms. And it is important that these policies are designed to be inclusive, equitable, and responsive to the realities of women. As we know, women constitute about half of our society, and women and young people, in these millions, we operate within the informal sector specifically, and majority of Nigerian workforce operating in the informal sector, as we all know, are women. And these tax reforms must be designed in ways that promote inclusivity, fairness, and reduce any burdens, because sometimes they may be unintended burdens, and they should be supportive of inclusive economic growth. At Pathfinder International, we strongly believe that advancing gender equity and social inclusion is fundamental to achieving sustainable development outcomes, particularly in health, education, and economic empowerment. And these three key areas are really central to our mission and vision. This Purple Book represents an important step in amplifying the evidence and also to have the policy recommendations that can help us shape agenda and to also talk to policymakers. Through our work, every day we see how economic opportunity, health, and gender equality are deeply connected. Through our Women and Co initiative, we are working to strengthen women's leadership, women's resilience, and access to opportunities that allow them to thrive in their communities and contribute meaningfully to the Nigeria development agenda. And this is why conversations about policy, about including taxation, and all matter to us. When systems are designed with this kind of inclusion in mind, they create enabling environments where women, young people, and especially informal workers can grow businesses and can support their families, as well as drive economic transformation. Policies such as this that are equitable and inclusive can unlock the potential of millions of women and young people who are already driving Nigeria's informal economy. The Purple Book, therefore, is an important step to ensuring that the voices and realities of these groups, that's women and young people, that we always strive to work for, are part of informing Nigeria's political reforms. I would like to congratulate the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and the Policy Innovation Center for the launch of this year's Purple Book. And I look forward to continued collaboration in advancing solutions that place women and young people at the center of Nigeria's future. As partners in development, Pathfinder remains committed to supporting initiatives that prioritize the well-being, agency, and economic participation of women and young people. We look forward to continued collaboration in advancing inclusive reforms that leaves no one behind. Please accept our best wishes for a successful and impactful event. Thank you.
A warm round of applause again for Madame Dorai. Thank you so much for that. I can hear your applauses, please. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Well, we're working to ensure that we wrap up the entire event, give or take by 1:30 latest, thereabouts. So we're going to be very paced and we're going to be timely so that we can all get around the business of the day. We also would like to recognize those who are watching us online. For the online audience, we want to say thank you so much. And we also would like there to be some form of engagement online as well. So shortly we'll have displayed on the screen the hashtag for this event, which is, what is it again, remind me? Purple Book launch, right? Excellent. So please, you can take up your phones and just get online and share your experience, or you share your expectations as we're starting, what you're looking forward to experiencing, or what you're looking forward to taking out, and just put up the pictures and let's have a wonderful time and engage even online as we proceed. We will move to something very important right away, and it is the keynote address. But before we take the keynote address, we'd like to also still recognize some of our special guests who are also invited. We'd like to recognize the presence of the Deputy Director of Taxes, Nigeria Revenue Service, Mrs. Patricia Chinwe of Philly Ikpeazu. Are you around, madam? Please, a round of applause for her. Thank you very much for joining us. We also like to recognize the presence of the Senior Program Officer. You clearly have a fan beside you, ma. All right. We'd like to also recognize the presence of the Senior Program Officer, International Budget Partnership, Mr. Inyo Bongusen. Mr. Inyo Bongusen, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome. We also like to recognize the presence of Mrs. Esther Ogugwa, Member, Society of Women in Taxation Suites. You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much. I like the sash. Did you bring more for us? Welcome and good to see you, ma'am. All right, we'll go right away to the keynote address, and we will have on stage Mr. Albert Folorunsho, member of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, to deliver the keynote address as it represents Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the erstwhile chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. Please, let's give a warm round of applause for Mr. Folorunsho as he gives the keynote address. A warm round of applause, please. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to stand on the already well-established protocol, but I also want to thank the PIC for inviting the committee to make this presentation. Of course, I'm representing Taiwo Oyedele. You know, He's still our chairman, but but he has gotten a higher call. So when he called me, I said, you need to go and make this presentation. I said, what's going on? Well, it was inaugurated yesterday, and I think he's on his way to, if he's not already there, with the president to London. And he promised to send me something to present. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for it, but of course I have put things together. My name is Albert Folorunsho again, member of the committee. I'm also the president of BRIPAN, Business Recovery and Insolvency Practitioners Association of Nigeria. I run a firm of chartered accountants in Lagos. I'm the managing consultant, and I have young people, over 200 of them, chartered accountants that I oversee. And so this is very important for every one of us. But let me just give the keynote address, and then I'll be able to take those questions that I see people already asking me even before I start. We were waiting in the corner room there, and then we were already having conversation, and I can see the direction clearly now. All right. My sister is also here from the NRS. He has to be my sister if I want to ensure my taxes are. All right, distinguished policy makers, development partners, members of the private sector, representative of civil society, and other esteemed guests. It is a privilege to speak at the launch of the Purple Book, an important contribution to Nigeria's ongoing conversation about building a fairer, more inclusive, and more effective tax system. Nigeria is currently undertaking one of the most significant fiscal reform programs in its modern history. Through the work of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, chaired by our chairman, I'm sure we know his name, and supported by the leadership of government, Nigeria has enacted 4 landmark laws designed to modernize the nation's tax framework: the Nigerian Tax Act, the Nigerian Tax Admin Act, the Nigerian Revenue Service Act, and of course the Joint Revenue Board Act. These reforms represent far more than legislative changes. They represent a structural shift in how Nigeria mobilizes revenue, promote economic inclusion, and strengthen the social contract between government and citizens, which has been the key issue. Historically, Nigeria has had one of the lowest tax to GDP ratio globally, very low. While progress has been made, with the ratio rising to approximately 12.5% with the rebasing of the GDP.
My home.
Well mentioned here, it is about equity. It is about opportunity. And it is about ensuring that the tax system supports, not stifles, economic participation. This is particularly important when we consider the structure of Nigerian labor market. According to Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, over 92% of employment in Nigeria is in the informal sector, rising even higher for women and young people. This reality presents both a challenge and an opportunity. A challenge because complex and fragmented tax system can unintentionally place disproportionate burdens on small traders, the artisans, market women, and youth entrepreneurs. I always see young people that are starting a new business coming forward to say that we are looking for relief, we want exemption. Go and start first now. But also an opportunity because a well-designed tax system can unlock growth, encourage formalization, and expand economic participation. The reform now underway, are therefore guided by a simple but powerful principle: make the system easier, fairer, more inclusive, and progressive. One key step in this direction is the elimination and harmonization of nuisance taxes. Nuisance. And overlapping levies that have historically affected small businesses operating in markets and communities across the country. For many Nigerians in the informal economy, taxation has too often meant multiple collection, unclear obligations, and unpredictable enforcement. You don't know when you are done with paying your tax. After paying, you are audited. You don't know who is auditing. Is it the NRS, the House of Rep, the Senate, the EFCC, the RAMFAC? The reform aimed to change all of that, hopefully. By strengthening coordination across tiers of government and clarifying tax authority, Nigeria is moving forward towards a system where businesses face fewer taxes, clearer rules, and simpler compliance processes. Equally important is the reform's focus on reducing the regressive impact of taxation on vulnerable households. Though targeted VAT exemption and zero rating of essential goods, the reform aims to protect the purchasing power of lower income households, ensuring that the tax system does not disproportionately affect those with the least ability to pay. At the same time, the reform are introducing measures to support enterprise growth, including simplified tax compliance framework and improved access to input VAT credit that can help businesses manage their cash flows and reinvest in expansion. The provision has been made that when you're making a claim for your VAT credit, you don't have to be audited, and time frame has been specified, and we are praying that it will be complied with. Join me in that prayer, I beg. For youth entrepreneurs and digital innovators, clearer policies around digital taxation and improved recognition of digital business model will help reduce regulatory uncertainty and support Nigeria's rapidly growing innovation economy. However, as the Purple Book rightly reminds us, policy design alone is not enough. The real impact of reform will depend on implementation. Issues such as enforcement, fairness, digital accessibility, disability inclusion, and taxpayer education will determine whether the promise of reform translates into real opportunity for those who need it the most. And I'm hoping that they are addressing these specific people. Tomorrow I'm supposed to speak on behalf of Taiwo to Institute of Directors. I'm waiting for the low-income earners to also call. This is why discussion like today's panel are so important. They provide a platform to examine not only who pays, but also who benefit from tax reform. They allow us to ask critical questions. Are women-led enterprises able to access the benefit of these reforms? Are youth entrepreneurs positioned to take advantage of digital tax incentives? Are informal workers being supported in the transition towards formal economic participation? And perhaps most importantly, how do we measure success? Ultimately, the success of Nigerian tax reform will not be measured solely in the revenue numbers. It will be measured in expanded opportunity, improved fairness, and stronger economic participation across all segments of the society. The Purple Book contributes meaningfully to this conversation by centering the voices and experiences of groups that are often underrepresented in fiscal debates, women, youth, and informal workers. In doing so, it reminds us that inclusive tax policy is not simply a matter of social justice. It is a matter of economic strategy. A tax system that works for small businesses strengthens local economies. A tax system that supports young entrepreneurs fuels innovation. A tax system that protects vulnerable households builds trust, public trust. Very key, public trust. Let me conclude with these thoughts. Tax reform is often viewed as a technical exercise, but at its core, it is about nation building. When a tax system is transparent, equitable, efficient, progressive, it enables government to invest in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and security. It strengthens the foundation for long-term prosperity, and it deepens the relationship between citizens and the state. Ultimately, tax reform is not about revenue. It is about building a system that expands opportunity. If implemented inclusively, this reform can transform Nigeria's tax system into a platform for economic participation, particularly for women, young entrepreneurs, and the millions operating in the informal sector, including those who are former inside the informal sector. The Purple Book reminds us that tax reform is not simply about revenue. It is about fairness, opportunity, and national development, and it must unlock potential. When a tax system works for women, youth, and informal workers, it works for the entire economy, and it becomes a cornerstone of Nigeria's broader economic reform agenda. The Purple Book therefore arrives at an important moment in Nigerian reform journey. It challenges us not only to ask how we raise revenue, but how we design a system that expands opportunity and supports inclusive growth. Because ultimately, tax reform is not about how much we collect. It is about how much people we empower and how people benefit from tax collected. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Albert Folorunsho, for that keynote address. Up next, we are going to be watching a documentary titled Who Gains, Who Pays? Who Pays? What you're about to watch is a collection of voices of people on the streets who have shared their thoughts, their concerns, their opinions about the Nigeria's 2026 tax reform. So we urge you to please watch closely and pay attention to the stories.
Every day across Nigeria, millions of people step into markets, open their stores, and begin the daily hustle to earn a living. For many of them, business is survival, a way to feed their families and support their communities. But behind this daily hustle is a growing concern. During a We Policy co-creation session organized by the Policy Innovation Center, grassroots women, market traders, and persons with disabilities came together to share the realities they face in their businesses. Two major challenges quickly emerged. The first was multiple taxation. Traders explained that they often pay several levies to different authorities, reducing their profits and increasing the cost of goods. The second was access to finance. Many small business owners struggle to access the funding they need to grow.
So by the time we need money and we rush to the bank, you want to get a loan. The bank manager will now say, okay, let me see your account details. The loan might not be granted. Bank will say, go and bring your CAC document. Where is your bank, your tax? Yes, we must pay tax. Market people must pay tax. They will ask you, where is your tax payment?
Because of how widespread these concerns were, the conversation was taken further to the 2025 Gender and Inclusion Summit, where policymakers, experts, and stakeholders gathered to discuss possible solutions. Yet even after the summit, one important question remains. As Nigeria continues conversations around tax reform, how do these policies affect the people at the grassroots? Are traders and small business owners even aware of these reforms? Do they understand what taxation means and how it is meant to benefit them? To better understand this reality, we went to the streets to hear directly from the people whose businesses keep the grassroots economy alive.
My name is Mr. E.P. Offer. I don't know anything about the tax.
Tax. About tax as in house tax or road. Oh, then fit talk about me, I never know. I never hear.
The government have failed to educate so many Nigerians, especially me. We only know that you pay 70%, some say 20%, so we are yet to know which one to pay and how to pay our tax.
Anyway, I heard about tax, that they are collecting taxes from both workers and those people that are not working. Why are they doing that? If I'm not working, where do they expect me to get money to pay tax?
Recently, I've actually been noticing tax reductions from my business account. Actually, the new tax reform is something most of us don't really understand. Right from time, there's no sensitization on how these tax reforms would affect both individuals and businesses. There are some purchases that are tax-free, but you still see them being taxed. We don't understand. So if it's for small businesses who are exempted from tax, so how come we are still receiving tax reductions from our corporate accounts, our business accounts?
The tax reform policy, which the government enthroned, is good. I pay income tax based on my earnings, and I own a firm company, and the company pays tax. But then, when we pay tax, what are the benefits? How do they use our money to better the life of Nigerians? That's what is important.
So I don't know where the tax is going to, whether the government are using us or we don't know. The government is supposed to use us, they help us, and they are using our money, the one we work for, and they are not doing anything to our life.
As Nigeria moves forward with tax reform, one thing is certain: the people at the grassroots must not be left out of the conversation. Because when policies include the voices of the people that they affect the most, real change becomes possible.
That was very instructive, right? Excellent. I could see the reactions and the comments coming in from the crowd there. Now we're going to go to a panel that writes on the content of what we just watched, and I will be leading that panel. And so very quickly, I'll call up stage to join me a number of our special guests to build this conversation around taxation, who gains, who pays, especially centering women, youth, and informal workers in Nigeria's 2026 tax reform. Do you mind? Because you're going to be sitting. All right. So first, I'll call up stage to join me, Madam Patricia Chinwe Ofili-Okpeazu, Deputy Director of Taxes, Nigeria Revenue Service. Please, Madam Ofili-Okpeazu, let's give her a round of applause as she comes. You may sit over here. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Then I'll also call to join me on stage, Mr. Inyo Bong-Usen, the Senior Program Officer, International Budget Partnership. Mr. Usen, please, a round of applause for him as he comes up stage to join me. Yes. And finally, I'll call Mrs. Esther Ogugwa, member of the Society of Women in Taxation, to join us. The lady with the sash. Please, upstage. Julius, can you help me with the microphones, please? They're right in there. Right in the podium, Uncle. Yes, there are 2 more microphones for everyone. All right, there should be 1 more so that we have complete. Thank you, you're welcome. Okay, the final microphone. Yes, thank you very much. All right, very well. Good morning, my panelists. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. So we're going to make this very snappy and straight to the point. And I'm going to start from you. We're talking around how we are able to center women, youth, and informal workers in Nigeria's 2026 tax reform? And that's a very important subject topic. We all know that. So the first question I'm going to direct to Mrs. Ophilik Piazu from the Nigeria Revenue Service. We should start from you, right? The very Revenue Service itself. Now, my question has to do with young entrepreneurs, right? Because these are people who do a lot of work and get out there in the grind every other day. Now, the question is what sort of benefits do young entrepreneurs stand to gain from VAT credits, that is VAT credits on digital services and tools?
Okay, luckily enough, I'm a tax controller, so I've had opportunities of dealing with the young entrepreneurs. In the first instance, what I would ask is, do they really even know what the VAT credit is? You understand? Do they know what the VAT credit is? And the answer is no. And VAT credit is supposed to be something that they ought to know to help them grow their business. Because one, when you buy something from somebody and you have an input VAT, you can either in those days you can either use it to offset your use it as an input VAT, or now you can go and reclaim your VAT, go for your VAT refund. So what we in Federal Revenue Service we're doing now is we're doing a lot of sensitization. We are doing a lot of stakeholder engagements, especially among this informal sector, the women and people. Like for me, we have what we call Tax Thursday. Every first Thursday of the month, we go out. It's not when people now come. And when we go out, like for instance, you go to plazas, you discover that these people you're going to meet, majority of them are in the informal sector. A lot of them are the youths who have maybe digital business or the other. So we go out to talk to them. We go out to educate them and tell them what they ought to know concerning this. So if they know about the VAT credits and they know that they are also supposed to keep proper documentation, because without the documentation, there'll be no VAT credit. Without proper invoicing, there'll be no VAT credit. So we are doing a lot of stakeholder engagement and education to these young ones, telling them to keep documentation, keep their invoices. And at the same time, Inland Revenue has made the digital platform now, Rev 360, very tax friendly, unlike the tax formats that we have. And I was one of the people that criticized it when the platform came on board. And I can tell you for free that it's a lot easier now to file returns. So the young people are going to benefit a lot from these new tax reforms, which Mr. Follower is a member. And I want to tell you, sir, that you people did exceptionally well.
All right.
So
thank you very much for that. From what I hear you say, clearly there's still need for a lot more sensitization and awareness, right?
Yes.
For young people and entrepreneurs and those who the tax matters concern generally, and your office is doing quite some work along that. But perhaps more of that. I mean, this is the first time I hear about Tax Thursday. Has anybody ever heard of Tax Thursday before? Quite a number of persons, right? A show of hands, do you mind? Okay, still quite a few persons. My very first time, I would say, but clearly more work still needs to be done along that line. Let's come to you, sir, Mr. Hussein. And I would like to center the conversation around the matter of inclusiveness, right? From your experience and your expertise, what would you say should be the indicators, or what are the indicators that government is using to track inclusiveness in the current reforms? Are there any in the first place? And if there are none, what should it be, really?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I'm aware that there's a committee also that has been set up within the larger committee to monitor and track the impact of the reforms. And part of their TOR is actually to track some of these indicators. But that process is still ongoing. But what the ideal indicators for me should be centered around certain themes that I think are of critical importance to taxpayers. So for instance, one of the novel provisions of this reforms or the laws has been the creation of the Office of the Tax Ombuds, right? That creates an avenue for taxpayers to seek redress. So in tracking the effectiveness of that office, because historically in Nigeria, for entities that have been set up to be independent and to ensure value for money, to provide avenues for accountability, the structures setting up those offices have not been very robust, and there are quite a number of examples. So if you look at the Office of the Auditor General, for instance, funding is an issue. The operational autonomy that office needs to function is also an issue. If you look at the Fiscal Responsibility Commission as well, they are also battling with some of those challenges. And so the Office of the Tax Ombuds, for it to be able to maintain that level of autonomy, independence, needs to be properly funded. And this should translate into the number of cases that has been resolved, whether in favor of the taxpayer or not, because we don't want to see ourselves in a situation where this office exists, but then it's not able to dispense its mandate or function to the benefit of the taxpayer, as the case may be. We also want to be able to see the linkages between revenue and service. And I think that was very evident in the video that was shown. If we say that in the informal sector, women contribute, largely, if you compare the contribution of men to women, we want to be able to see that when taxes are generated, it's applied to certain services or sectors that primarily affect women. So when we say we want to see an increased, allocation to health, for instance, it shouldn't just be looked at on a broad basis. We should look at maybe issues or prioritize issues that affect the reproductive health of women, right? Issues that affect nutrition, that affect immunization, and all of that. Also, we also want to see the contribution of women in terms of businesses run by women to taxes as well. Because sometimes the data is gender blind. And so when tax policy is being formulated or implemented, it doesn't take into account the specific contribution or needs of women. And so the hope is that in collecting data within this implementation phase, that we're able to quantify the contributions of women businesses or women, whether to company income tax or if it's within the presumptive tax regime. That's for the regime that applies to persons playing in the informal sector who do not keep records. But we have a fair sense of what exactly women contribute in terms of taxes. And then women can now use that data as reference or leverage to now ask, for government policies that specifically address the needs of women.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to come to you, ma'am, from the Society of Women in Tax. Now, Mr. Hussein did say something about gender blindness of some sort when it comes to some of the tax structures that we have. I'll put a question across to you that still relates to one of the things that Mr. Polonsho mentioned, which is nuisance tax. Now, the question has to do with this. How does the nuisance tax harmonization of the current reform, how does it address gendered patterns of enforcement and informal levies?
Thank you very much for this question. Precisely, first we just have to understand what is this harmonization of this nuisance tax all about. And we have to understand that it's basically bringing all the multiple taxes, levies, into a more single defined framework that can easily ensure that gender pattern enforcement is well coordinated as far as the informal sector is concerned. Now, on the recent times, and even before the enforcement, this is a recent reform, we understood that the market traders the women there in the market, they face a lot of these multiple charges, multiple levies. And often, it's not only just facing a lot of these charges. It happens that these enforcements of these charges often come with intimidation, harassment, and sometimes confiscating these women's goods. And this is what actually we are here to provocate, to make sure that these things does not continue as far as this tax reform is concerned. Now, with that, you will not be looking at this harmonization. What is it there for us as women? With the harmonization of these taxes, multiple taxes, bringing about ensuring that all those overlapping taxes, multiple taxes, are now in a well streamlined single tax that can easily be understood, and women can be able to plan for it, and it will be more easier to monitor. That's actually what we are always provocating and also advocating for. And looking at that, if that should be in place, it then means looking at it from the angle of a digitalization of a tax system, especially in the area of payment, that also we are looking at that this reform will bring to bear. It will go a long way to reduce the face-to-face of this, collection of taxes. That is always characterized by this significant intimidation and harassment.
Excellent.
So with that, it will see that taxes is not just, when we are talking about this harmonization, we're not just only talking about making sure that this tax works, but also ensuring that everyone, especially the women, that is the major, contributors as far as these small multiple levies are concerned, also benefit from what they are contributing. As far as the tax burden is concerned.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I like it when she uses the word provocate and advocate there. I mean, it's really important that these issues are streamlined or spotlighted. Well, we have to wrap it up because of time, and I will just have each of the panelists give one line sentence as to what is one word. If, for example, you could make a contribution, or you could make a change, or you could enforce something as regards the new tax reforms, what would it be? What would your message be?
My message is partnership. We are no longer doing tax by enforcement. We are doing tax by partnership.
Brilliant. Yes. To you, sir, Mr. Hussein?
Yeah, so for me, it would be for the subnationals to equally play their own role in these reforms, because most of the people affected, as shown in your videos, are people who are present at the subnational level. And at the moment, about maybe just 12 states have, enacted the harmonization bills that seeks to harmonize, that would, reduce the burden on players in the informal sector. So it's to get all the other states, including the FCT, to equally enact their own versions of the harmonized bill, and to also enforce.
Along that line. Thank you very much. Subnational work. All right, Mark. Fine.
Short, as far as the women intercession is concerned, if we say that this tax reform, is the engine of this economy, we should also see that women, the youth, they are all fuel that sees that this particular economy is running. So with that, the tax system that will be progressed should always ensure that fairness, the justice as far as the tax burden to every citizen of this country is concerned.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to wrap it up there. Please, a warm round of applause for all my panelists. Thank you very much. Let's have a... Yes, we should take a picture very quickly of the panelists. All right, still with the pictures. Yes, please, let's have all our special guests to step up before we go straight to the next session of the QA with Mr. Albert Folorunsho. Can we have Executive Director? All our special guests, madam, please step forward. Let's take a joint picture as well together. Yes, Mr. Folorunsho, please. Can you join them on stage? All right. Okay, that does it. Thank you very much. Please, one round of applause for all our special guests as they take their seats.
Okay, thank you all for the engagement so far. We are trying our best to keep to time, so we aim to finish, say by 1. But for now, I'm going to invite Dr. Siom for the Q&A session with Mr. Albert Folorunsho. Please, can we put our hands together for them as they...
Good morning, sir. And good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be here. I'm Dr. Somwegu with the Policy Innovation Center. And I have with me here
Albert Folorunsho.
Very pleased to have you, sir. I get to do the fun parts of today's proceedings. So we went out into the streets because we wanted to give ordinary Nigerians on the streets an opportunity to have access, if you will, even though they're not in the room, to get their questions to an expert such as yourself. So I understand that you are the presidential, you're a member of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. So definitely an expert. Okay, thank you very much. You're trying to help my eyes. So my very first question to you, or not my question, these are actually coming from ordinary Nigerians. How can I pay my tax as an informal worker? And how and what percent, I think they were trying to say.
Okay. As an informal worker, we're referring to those that are not in formal employment. And you are not an executive somewhere. So for an informal worker, you're just like an individual, like any other person, either as a trader, as a person that is not in employment but receiving some form of income, or you have businesses that you run in your name, or you run the business in an enterprise name, or you are a partner in a partnership, or you just have small businesses here and there from which you make and meet. Okay, so that is the context of an informal person. All right, so for such person, the personal income tax provision still apply, which is you pay your tax like any other individual. So an individual is liable to tax on the income that accrues to that individual, either from trade, business, profession, or vocation, or from investment by way of interest, dividend, rent, royalties. These are the sources of income that accrue to such individual. Now, how do you compute tax for such a person? You need to determine your income. Your income is not your turnover. Your income is not how much you sell. It is the profit you make which means you buy some items. I'm talking about a person that is into buying and selling, and you sold those items. All right. At the end of the day, you have profit that you have made. In fact, in the course of determining your profit, and that is where record keeping is critical. You have paid the rent where you put your wares. You have paid some even charges, water rates, and all that. All of those must be collated and deducted from that your income, apart from even the cost of the goods you are selling. At the end of the day, you have what you call your profit. If you use asset in generating that income, maybe you are just into popcorn business and you have acquired the popcorn machine, you are eligible to make a claim for some allowances, which you call capital allowance. You can also take a deduction. At the end of the day, whatever is left is called your profit. From that profit that is taxable, the law says that the first 800,000 of that taxable profit is not liable to tax. It should be taxed at 0%. That is how to calculate your tax. The next 2.2 million will be taxed at 15%. The next 9 million will be taxed at 18%. The next 13 million will be taxed at 21%. The next 25 million will be taxed at 23%. Anything above 50 million at 25%. So that at the end of the day, you determine your, but of course, you need to engage with the tax authority. For an informal person, let me emphasize again, it may not be that straightforward because they don't really file their return. Okay, so the tax authority have, we talk about harmonization. Harmonization is trying to ascertain how those informal people will be subjected to tax, determining how many of them, whatever their income is, depending on what they are doing, they should not even be liable to tax. If you are a roadside corn seller, or you are roasting plantain, or some states from different states are now having categorization as to what should be totally exempt, and then those that will be taxed where they are above 12 million a year. That is just a particular state figure I've mentioned. It's not in the law. This is what a state has determined. And of course, some of them are also coming up with ways to assess them by just giving them a nominal charge that is not going to the graduated tax table that I just enumerate. So it's...
All right. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
I'm glad you went into that in depth, because then you took out my question number 2.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just going to read it out just so that the people who submitted the questions know that we actually attempted to address it. Is it true that those who don't have a job are required to pay tax? That's the question.
Okay, yeah, I will answer it.
Okay, so
Yes.
you've already answered that one.
No,
Question
I've
3.
not answered it.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
If you don't have a job, if you don't have a job, whether you are required to pay tax.
Yeah.
Tax is on income and profit. So if you are not working, you are not in employment, and you don't have a trade that you are engaging, you don't have to pay tax. And that does not mean that you don't need a tax clearance. You still have people, you still have your children in school, and sometimes they still require tax clearance certificates.
The children or the person who has the
the
children?
person, the parent.
Okay.
And there's some parents that don't have source of income. They sponsor their children by begging, and they're getting gift. Gift is not taxable in Nigeria. Okay, so we are appealing to most states to still make provision where you can still issue tax clearance to those who are not working and do not have any source of income, so that they can still do businesses. I mean, they can still do transactions that people who collect tax clearance also do.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. To my third question, can one know which purchases are tax-free? And I know that's a very broad question, but just give it your best shot. Can one know which purchases are tax-free?
Okay, when you talk about tax-free, it depends on the type of tax you are referring to. Are you referring to value-added tax or income tax? Because there's no income tax-free, but there are transactions that are not liable to value-added tax, and we call them the zero-rated or exemption. So if you are fully exempted, it means that the 0% does not even apply. And so where 0% does not apply, it means that the transaction, we have a long list of them which can be provided.
Recording in
Those
progress.
transactions are not liable to VAT at all. And what it means is that because they are exempted, what you are selling is exempted. If you buy something that is exempted and you sell it, you cannot claim any input. Because it means that when you bought, nobody has charged you any VAT. So if you have not been charged, you cannot claim any refund. But when you buy things that are zero rated, it means that when you bought, you probably have paid tax. Let's say maybe wheat or some items, wheat is exempt. If you have paid VAT, and then when you are selling, the provision says, at the end of the day, what you are selling is basic food, and therefore there's no VAT. So which means your output VAT, there's output VAT and there's input VAT. The input VAT is the one you pay when you are buying, and then the output VAT is the one you collect when you are selling. It means that your output VAT in that sense will be zero, and then you have paid some input VAT. So which means the 0 minus 100 will be what? Minus 100. So which
Recording
means
in
you are
progress.
entitled to a refund of the 100 from the Nigerian Revenue Service. Okay, so the context is very important. In terms of exemption from income tax, there is no, whether you're a woman or a man, a young man, there's no exemption. Tax is gender blind, like somebody mentioned.
Should it be though? Should it be gender blind?
Well, there are some claims we have relief that are given to aged people, but not exemption.
That was actually a trick question. I just wanted to
Yeah.
where your mind was. Okay. My fourth question, and then we'll pause and take questions from the audience, if there are any. Are there businesses exempted from tax? What are they? Again, very vague. But
Yes.
just give it your best shot.
We have a long list of businesses that are not liable to tax.
So before you start, let me try and put some. Obviously, I'm not in this person's mind, but then there are businesses in terms of business type, and then businesses in terms of the size of the business, because I know all these things are relevant, right? So you can address this question from both.
Okay, let me start from the size. If you are an incorporated entity, I mean, what we have is that if your turnover is 100 million and below, you tax at 0%. You're not required to file VAT returns except you decide to do so. All right. And of course, if your asset is not more than 250 million, you still fall inside that exemption. Anything above that turnover, you are liable to normal tax. But again, it depends on the type of business you are into. If you are into agricultural business, in the first 5 years, you can have your exemption. If you are into some sectors, which we now call priority sector, under the economic development tax incentive, okay, for a particular period, you get some tax rebate, okay, or credit.
Can you give examples of?
Most large institutions, it varies. There are threshold and there are sunset here and there. Okay, if you're into manufacturing, you're into power, even the small scale innovation tech people for some level, they are totally exempt. Okay, so we have those categories that are also exempt. The agricultural business, the small young people in tech. If you incorporate a company, you are exempt. So which means you have not incorporated, you don't get those exemptions. Those are also provisions embedded in the provision in the law that tends to encourage formalization. Because if you are not formalized, you don't get those 100 million exemption. You get what the state gives you because you are under the purview of the state if you are not a limited liability company.
Thank you very much. And then my last question before we take questions from the audience. How can we as Nigerian citizens know how our taxes are used? So that's the first question. And what are the benefits? I guess you already spoke about one of them as you were talking. So maybe.
Okay. Well, as tax authority, I'm not speaking for the tax authority, but it is not their responsibility to specify what the revenue generated from tax is used for. But of course, we are all reporting to the government. Our chairman is now Minister of State for Finance, and he should be telling us what taxes generated are being used for. We expect in the very near future to have a very openly available platform where funds generated are tracked and what they have been deployed to, whether they are given to the state, he will want the state to give him report as to what those funds are being utilized. We have had some conversation and we expect to see serious innovation as far as fiscal responsibility is concerned, and that we can be sure he will come up with.
And of course, when that happens, there will be a publicly accessible portal where Nigerians can go and check.
I believe so.
Okay.
Definitely.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. I don't know. Do we have questions from the audience? Okay. So
Okay. Good morning once again. I'm not talking as a taxman. I'm talking as a woman because I'm also the chairperson of Society of Women Accountants of Nigeria, Abuja chapter. So, sir, I would like to ask you, were voices of women heard while the tax reform process was going on? Because women form a bulk of the people in the informal sector. How did you people attend to the voices of women too in the process of the policy making?
What did you say then?
I said,
I'm not saying you should repeat the question because you were saying that whether the voices of women were heard, and I'm like, that's why I'm asking you, did you say anything at all? Yes, what did you advocate for? If you have a public hearing, you should attend and make your voices known. I know big businesses that came forward, the representative of the airlines, the representative of different sectors. I can't remember women coming forward to say that there should be difference. You did and said words. I cannot remember women coming forward to say we need this. And that is the truth.
Okay, so I think we can wrap it up at this point. But I think the message, and I speak for the
no, but the
sake
important
of
thing, sorry, ma'am. The important is that when there is a process, we must participate. I noticed when some accountants came forward and said, or even tax experts to say that, why are we not classified as small business? Because the provision says that if you are a professional, we cannot, even if your turnover is zero, you are not a small business. You are not eligible not to file your returns. We're referring to those small sector, informal sector that are not really conversant with taxation and processes. So we must always make ourselves available, attend to public hearing, and submit by force, whether they like it or not. And then you can come to this forum to say that we said so, and nothing was taken. I didn't hear the voices of women.
Okay, so let me speak for the two ladies who just spoke up now. I think what they are trying to say is that taxes should not be gender blind, right? They cannot be, if we are to achieve what we want to achieve as a country. And what we are hoping is that every time these sorts of forums hold, that the government will intentionally invite women, and when they get there, actually allow them to speak. And then when we have spoken, actually implement those things. That is the ask. Am I speaking for? Okay.
So I've heard what she has said.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yes.
Do we? Okay. Please, I'm going to appeal that this, unfortunately, because
we really
of time,
can't.
this
So
will
we'll
have to
just
be
take
our
one
last
more from the man with the
question.
microphone, and then we'll
Please
be
go
done.
ahead,
Please,
ma'am.
we can't. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Comfort Sunday, Small Scale Women Farmers Organization in Nigeria. Something like this is going on, and we are the producers, and we don't even know about all these things. How are we going to participate? Because they say information is power, and we are not informed. How are we going to attend a public hearing that you are talking about?
All right, thank you. Before he answers, let's just take all the questions. We'll take one more question. So he can answer, Mr. Folosho can please answer everything together, and that'll be done.
Thank you very much, sir. Honorable Minister. Oh, yes, look behind. When you, my name is Glory Ohago. I work with Voice of Nigeria.
So I'm in the media circuit. When you made a speech, you did speak about public trust, engendering public trust to buy into this tax reforms. Now, Madam Comfort has raised a big question. What's the language of the committee when we go for the public hearings? Does she understand it? How are you carrying the media along in the education of, don't roll your eyes, sir. It involves budgetary funding. So who funds this needed advocacy so that everybody like Madam, when no fit speak better English, fit carry along, and me that can say, okay, this is how we do it, can be carried along. Who funds it? And how do we ensure that Nigerians, especially women and persons with disabilities, are being carried along? And my sanitary towel is now 2,500. Is it taxed? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
We'll take one more question.
Yes, the final one, and then you can answer everything at once, and we'll be fine.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. My name is Dr. Abia Udeme. I have a doctorate degree, but I don't understand most of the things you're saying. If I don't understand at my level, I wonder how Madam Comfort will understand.
I think there are many of us in the room.
God bless you.
That can relate.
We saw the documentary, live documentary. People were saying, we don't understand what they are saying. That woman was saying, what are they saying? Tax what? Are we going to be carrying tax on our head or what? Honestly, I want to say before this tax reform thing came into being, there would have been a proper sensitization before anything. Personally, I had to. Most people came to meet me in my church. They were asking me, how is it going to work? Who is going to be paying tax? Like that driver said, are we going to be the ones that will be paying tax? What will our money will be used for? There are lots and lots of questions, but let me ask you one question, sir. What targeted incentives are there for women, especially women-led enterprises, with regards to this tax reform?
In particular.
Thank you very much.
In particular, women-led enterprise.
Thank you. So we'll take that one
last
more,
question.
and that'll be it. Yes.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, he's answering. You'll take that question, and that'll be it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Kenneth. I represent the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, the people that really matter most. And here we talk about tax. Thank you for representing the chairman. We have, like my colleague from the informal sector has asked a question, I asked again. We were at the public hearing. We even organized a press conference at Transcorp when the tax was on. We asked for one thing: exemption on mobility imported materials, hardwares. We asked for it. Mr. Chairman, please tell me in the new tax, if Madam Comfort or the women were not there, we were there. We asked for this. Are the importation of mobility materials for persons with disability tax-free and their businesses? If it's there, please show me in the tax reform. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that will be our last question, and you have the opportunity to address.
Okay, thank you very much. Like you know, after inauguration of the minister, I've not even seen him. So, so not to talk about briefing me, but I saw his picture anyway, and he sent some text. But notwithstanding, I understand I've been to several churches, mosques. I've been to several places explaining. If I start with the last question, your exact request is in the tax law. As you have asked it, is there in the tax law. Like I said, the women didn't come. So I hope that is clear, sir. Every equipment that has to do with disability are all in the law and is exempt from every form of taxes, everything. It's there in the law. Yes, it's exempt in the law.
We can do better. Let's
Yes.
clap for that.
It's there in the law. You can go and check it. All right? There is no special provision that I can remember. Okay? He's also a member of the committee, so he will remind me if I'm forgetting. That mentioned if this is for women, then I can't remember anything like that because businesses are businesses. Companies are companies, individuals. In fact, when it comes to personal income tax and you are an employee, your salary is your salary. And the men spend their own salary more intensely. The women, hold on, let me finish now. I've not even said anything. The women have more responsibility than the men. Okay. All right, so then
She had asked a question about
yeah, question asked
being in the room and if she's in the
so
room.
the question is engagement and sensitization. I also have record of so much engagement that has taken place.
Sorry, whose question are you? Is it Madam Comfort?
Madam Comfort.
So I think her question was about when these things happen,
Yes.
they are never in the room. And then when they are in the room,
Mm.
the language in which these things are spoken about, I mean, I have
Mm.
a PhD
Mm.
and I do not understand. Like my sister
Mm.
was saying, a lot of the time, the language is above my head. So that's language in terms of even simplicity, right? Then there's even the issue of there are people who don't understand English. So no matter how simple you make it, I need you to speak to. You can talk to me for an hour. If at the end of 1 hour I do not understand what you're saying, you cannot say that I am going to make an informed decision.
What I can clearly explain here is that if you look at the provision of this law, it has more or less made Nigerian taxation to be very progressive, which is taking so much from the multinationals, high net worth individuals, and ensuring that the low income earners are virtually totally exempted from tax. So you don't need to worry if you are
But I
at that
can
level.
be high income and illiterate.
Yes.
I can be high income
Then,
and a totally illiterate.
then you are a former inside the informal sector.
Okay, I think we have one last question that wasn't addressed.
Madam,
Yes. Do you remember her question?
I remember her question. Her question
Uh-huh.
was addressed to the Minister of State for Finance.
Okay, and with
And
that,
I have not been briefed.
and with that, please a round of applause for him. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. We appreciate your being here. I know there was a lot of passion in the room, but what we are hoping, what we are hoping is that you will be an emissary for us and take all these pain points back to the other rooms. Thank you
Take a
very much.
picture. Look at some. Take a picture together. Yeah, you should take pictures together. It's fine. Can the picture go on, please? Thank you. Then yes, we can have yes. Yes.
Please, I do not accept that tax should be gender neutral because fiscal policy is used to drive both social and economic activity. And therefore, and we use it as a signal for what has to happen. If we want investment or particular economic behavior in a particular area, we use tax policy to do that. And therefore, if you want more women in business and more women leading businesses, you can use tax as an incentive to be able to do that. I'm Professor Tebo. I am Dean of Business School, Nile University. I'm a professor of accounting and finance myself. So I would ask that you look at that. When you want transnational corporations to come here, you give them tax incentives. If you want women to lead businesses, you give tax incentives. As simple as that. The second one is about education and the language of taxation is a special language. I mean, and I teach accounting, and we have people, even if you are a chartered accountant, you sometimes need tax specialism. The language has to be democratized. And you don't have to wait till you are checking tax and things like that. Look, it's high time in every country in Africa, if tax is good for us, to start using financial literacy right from the primary school age, where people the language is brought down to the level of people as part of your civic education and things like that. And the issue of trust must come. I don't accept that a tax authority should devoid itself of what tax is used for, because they are a collection agency of the Ministry of Finance. That they have to speak to the situation, and they have to channel to the Ministry of Finance that this is impeding the kind of work, because a value chain, and we at the moment, if you think through in terms of a value chain, I'm not saying that the responsibility lies with the tax authority to spend the money, but the responsibility of being the voice on spending the money and how it hinders the collection has to be done. So I've said three things. It's no longer gender neutral. That argument does not hold in my view. Number two, the education has to be right from the ground up, and the language has to be democratized, both in terms of the ethnic language that is used, but then also the terminology, etc., that is used. And then the third thing is that, look, I live in the United Kingdom. That is where I live. We pay 50% as the marginal tax rate, but we pay that because we know that nobody is going to steal our money. When I go to the hospital, it's free. My children go to school free. If I choose for my children to go to private school, that's my business. But in Africa, we pay more taxes. I mean, when you say our tax marginal rate is 25%, that is not true. Because when the roads are bad, I have to buy a 4-wheel drive car to be on that. That is taxation. When there's no electricity, I have to buy a generator. That is taxation. When there's no water, I need to buy tanks. That is taxation. When there's no security, I need to stay in it is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. You have spoken our voices, and we have taken judicial notice of all the points that have been made. I was speaking to my mom yesterday, and it was like, okay, we are going to Abuja again tomorrow from Lagos. I said, yes, is this tax, what is this tax thing itself? Okay, so she doesn't understand, but she doesn't need to pay because she doesn't have sources of income. But the important point I want to raise in terms of education is that a lot is being done, still in the process. Of course, you know that it takes time for the law to even settle. As it is, there have been a lot of controversy here and there. A lot of people don't even want the law to come to life, and now that it's virtually being implemented. One thing is being done is the working on how it will be converted into the various languages so that it can be easily read by every person in the market and all that. But what I always tell them, you know, when they call me in my church and I look at them, see, the government is not looking for you people's money. Don't worry yourself. Why are you stressing? 20%, 80% of the tax generated by the federal government by the federation is paid by like top 20, and we are not even part of the top 20. So don't stress yourself. Continue to do your business and make your profit, okay, and take care of your children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A warm round of applause, everyone. I think we should give ourselves a round of applause, everybody. I think this has been very, very, very inciting and exciting at the same time. Thank you very much. We did promise that we were going to wrap this up by 1:30 latest, and we're keeping to time. So we have just a few more minutes to go, and we will be done. We're moving to something very important, perhaps one of the high points of today's event. But before we do that, we'd like to quickly recognize a few other persons who have joined us today. We'd like to appreciate the presence of Mr. Uche Osasu, Social Development Specialist from the World Bank. Mr. Sasu, thank you so much for joining us. We also like to appreciate Ms. Helen Igboka, Head of Fifth Component Gender, Inclusion and Private Sector Engagement, SKY Program, GIS Nigeria and ECOWAS. Thank you for joining us. Also with us is Ms. Kikelomo Collins Chibeze, Head of Component, Policy and Public-Private Dialogue, SKY Program, GIS Nigeria and ECOWAS. Please, thank you for joining us. And finally, we'd like to appreciate dear friend and family. Well, we can call her friend and family. Ms. Rimisi Temlon Aboki, Gender Lead, Albright Stonebridge Group. Thank you so much for joining us. A round of applause, please, for all the guests. Right, so we're going to the launch of the Purple Book. The moment has come, but we will play a short video for all of us to watch and set the tone for the launch. So can we have the video played right away so that we can get to it? Thank you.
When PIC was set up in 2021, the first thing we thought it was important to fix around the conversation on gender was capacity. And so we set up the Gender and Development course. And we had the first edition in April 2022. But leading from the Gender and Development course, in June 2022, we were thinking of having some conversations around gender. Gender is not about creating a buzz or a call to action, holding placards, and then everybody goes home. Gender for me is that point where we start the conversation about understanding how society constructs roles for men and women. To show the seriousness of the conversation around gender, it was first of all important to have a dedicated platform
where everyone could be heard, where everyone could speak, and using different ways to ensure that the knowledge is passed across. And the only solution to that was a summit. The Gender and Inclusion Summit kicked off in 2022. We had 700 people in the room in Transcorp. We had over 3,000 people join virtually. And we had some people outside of Nigeria. Combined over the 2 days, we had over 1,000 people attend.
Immediately we said, you know what, we're not letting this die here. So first of all, we're going to ensure that we create a publication that guarantees that post-summit people can make reference to the conversation, use that as an advocacy tool into the coming year. And that's how we developed the Purple Book. The beautiful thing about the Gender Summit is that we are so very organic in the way we are evolving the summit. 2023 Gender Summit, we introduced a day zero, which is now the Gender Summit Learning Workshop. We titled that workshop, Measuring What Matters. So this 2025, we've dreamt of the next 5 years. We're really, really ambitious. We see the Gender and Inclusion Summit as that place people want to be every September, not just to create conversations, but to really enrich their personal experience, professional experience, their organizational experience, and bring together cutting-edge collaborations that would advance gender equity in Africa.
Okay, thank you so much for your patience so far. Good afternoon, everyone. I stand on already established protocols to say a really big thank you for coming and lending your voice to this very heated conversation. And thank you so much, sir. We didn't mean to put you so much on the spot, but I mean, it's just a reflection of the pain points, of every single person in the room. But I think that the conversations we had in the room today is why the Gender Summit exists. And I'll tell you a really brief story. So in 2021, October 2021, when the Policy Innovation Center was set up, my bosses are, my orgas are the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. So we have the Nigerian Economic Summit. So I think the very first year, when we're preparing for the NES in 2022, I kind of went to them with a lot of gender sessions I was hoping we could have at the NES summit. And then I was told, Madam, this is your gender jet, please stay somewhere. Like, you can't dilute that hard macroeconomic conversation with so much of your stuff. And that was when we started to reflect on, you know what, why don't we, and it's really intriguing to hear that, you know, the conversation is that we women did not, you know, come over. Exactly. You know, but that was why we thought, you know what, let's have a dedicated platform so that we are not always sharing, looking for chance to air our voices. And that was why we set up the Gender Summit in 2022. And it was not easy because, first of all, I was told, if you want to do gender talk, go and find gender money. So first of all, I'm thankful to our funders and partners who believed in us, especially in that very first year. We got some support last minute when we were about to give up. And then we had the 2022 Gender Summit. And then after that, we kind of were determined that, no, when we saw the conversation, just like the energy in the room today, we knew that it was important to sustain that platform. And I'm grateful that we did 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. So we've sustained it for 4 years. I think that's a good place to clap. And we are now in 2026, and we are still going strong. But we don't want conversations to go to waste. So when, like all the conversations that are happening here today, we'll go into a policy brief, and we'll use that as an advocacy tool to come back to say, these were some of the conversations we had. You know, the tax policy should not be gender blind. You know, these are conversations from informal workers. We'll bring all those conversations because I always believe that advocacy must continue in perpetuity if we are going to see lasting change. And that was the whole idea about having the Purple Book. Don't let conversations die in the room. Take those voices out and see how we can link them with action. And we're really grateful that over the past 4 years, it's not been easy. So I don't like saying it like something that was like a walk in the park. But we've gradually seen conversations that happened at the Gender Summit really translate into tangible either policy conversations or implementations or interventions. And we're really grateful for the opportunity we have to continue that work. So since 2022, we have produced the Purple Book. This is the 2022 edition. When we were starting, we just thought, let's even connect the dots. So the theme was connecting the dots for a gender inclusive society. And then we went to 2023, and the theme was building bridges, advancing gender and inclusion through the intersection of trade and health. And then we went to 2024. And I think it was by 2024 we realized that it's not enough to come into a nice, beautiful hall and speak on behalf of different diverse populations and vulnerable groups. So we decided that every Gender Summit going forward, all the voices will not be represented. The voices will actually be in the room. And so the theme of 2025 was 2024. Oh, can you imagine? Sorry, that was 2025. So 2024 was reimagining gender inclusive pathways and partnerships for poverty reduction. And then 2025, yes. So it was 2025 I was talking about. It was new voices and new approaches for accelerating an inclusive society. So all the voices that needed to contribute to the conversation came right into the room and did so. And so today we're launching this book. I think one of the high points of some of the conversations we have had, please, I know that we have a lot of he for she's here, so bear with me. Please, Rin, can I have the brief? No, the brief. So one of the high points of those conversations was really looking at, you know, spotlighting women economic empowerment. And we had a very unique opportunity in Lagos State to support the development of a women economic empowerment policy roadmap. And I'm proud to say that the very first conversations on this came from the 2022 Gender and Inclusion Summit. And we've deepened those conversations till date. I'm sure many of us have followed the domestication journey of the Women Economic Empowerment Policy and will continue to do so. So in a nutshell, I'm just saying that we appreciate the conversations we've had today, and it reinforces the need to continue to have this sort of advocacy platform to ensure that when we take these voices from the summit, we go straight to the hearing and ensure that where women's voices are represented, the voices of vulnerable groups, persons with disability, and we're also supporting that process of co-creating what an inclusive future should look like for everyone. So I would like to humbly call on Mrs. Miriam Uwais to lead this process of unveiling the 2025 Purple Book. Please permit me also to call on Mr. Albert Folorunsho. You're welcome, sir. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Tonya Akiniyi. Thank you. Dr. Amina Dorayi. Thank you. Please, ma, join us. Dr. Lillian, please join us. Dr. Abiak, sorry. Thank you. Then I'd like to also call on Mr. Osai. Please, ma, join us. Yes, and Professor Tagoe. Ms. Adekemi Omole is your book, so please join us. Mr. Akinwumi Akinola. So I'll hand over the mic to.
I'm leading. Okay. So it gives me great pleasure. It's a great honor for me to lead on this occasion. The PIC is very dear to me, and the NESG has done so well by ensuring that the Gender Summit, I mean, the PIC was created, and now the Purple Book 2025 is being launched. So to the glory of God, please join me, everyone. I'm not very good at this, you see. Very well. Okay. So okay. So for the women of Nigeria and for humanity, thank you. There you are. Okay.
Yes.
Let's put this down. That's it. All right.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It's free, so we can get you a link to download the other series. Yes. And in the excitement of this, as we round up, GS 2026 is here. I think a lot of lessons we've taken away from today is we're going to be deepening the conversations about creating gender responsive tax reforms and hopefully taking that conversation also back to the tax committee. So finally, I think my work here is to unveil the 2026 Gender Summit theme. So please just look on your screens, and in a minute, So the theme of the 2026 summit is can you just display the theme? So it's from agenda to action, making innovations count to the last mile. And the reason why we have been very intentional about this year is beyond just having dialogues at the summit, we want to begin to have innovation pitches where we all sit in a room and co-create what's innovation that reaches the smallholder farmer or the person, the most vulnerable person at the last mile for MNCH, for nutrition, what those conversations should look like within the tech system, creating jobs, youth employability. So the theme of this summit is from agenda to action, making innovations count to the last mile, September 8th and 9th, 2026. We look forward to receiving you. And thank you so much for coming.
All right, please, one final round of applause for Dr. Osasui Dirisu. And please, a warm round of applause for all ourselves. Everyone, do you want to give a round of applause for ourselves too? I can't hear it. We've come to the end, but I want us to give ourselves a round of applause, please. Everyone. Yes, thank you very much. And to all our online audience, we want to say thank you for staying with us. Please still go on. I can see people taking pictures already. So let's use the hashtag. It's Purple Book Launch, right? Use the hashtag, share your experience, share what major key takeaways you've had from this experience, and perhaps one thing that you want us to also do better as we move forward. You'll see some QR codes being distributed across. They are there for you to be able to scan and download the Purple Book right now. Of course, the online version is free, but the physical copy, it's free actually, but there are very limited copies of the physical one. But everyone can get the online copy of the. So please download and share as much as you'd like to, and of course you can see on the screen as well. So Hanifa.
Okay, I had promised earlier that we will try our best to stay on time, and we did just that. But on final note, I would invite the Behavioral Insight Lead, Mr. Akinola Akinwumi, to give us a vote of thanks. Please, let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Amiable Compare. I want to stand on all the existing protocols on behalf of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and the Policy Innovation Center. I want to say a warm thanks for coming. We do not take your time and your conviviality to be in this meeting for granted. And we hope that when next we call on you, hopefully, or before the next Gender Summit, you would heed our cry and you continue to show partnership with us. Thank you so much for coming. We wish you safe journey back to your various destinations. Do have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akin. And that is the final note, and we have come to the end of Purple Book Launch 2025, 2026. So thank you so much. Please, lunch is served. It will be given to everyone before we leave. And yes, we can all have a group picture for as many of us that would like to fit into one. If you have not had the opportunity, we can do that right away. So let's come forward. Let's move this down. Julius, can you help out? We can do a group picture right away on stage for as many of us that would like to be a part of that. Why yet to? Can we have all the PIC team, the organizing team come forward? Can we take this down?